In construction today, usually nails are used to frame up a house or anything else with timber. But as cabinet makers and joiners, we prefer screws or dowels to put things together because they create a much stronger connection. So I've put up here a selection of screws that we use in the trade, from a small one to actually to a coat screw. So these all here can be done with a screwdriver. These need a shifter or a socket to be able to drive them in. But we need a pilot hole, of course, and a clearance hole for certain screws. Now, a pilot hole is something that starts the screw off, gives it location. A clearance hole is something that is bigger than the screw. So if you're putting bolts in veranda posts and things, you need a clearance hole so your bolt goes straight through. And if you use a coat screw, you need a pilot hole to move some of the material away and gives it a hole that the thread can work its way into. So I've got a couple of, again, classic tools here. They're called Yankees because they're made in America. They're a beautiful little tool, and they used to be the rage in the 70s. And they work on a ratchet system, a spiral ratchet system. So as you push, the bit turns. So you've got the little one, again the baby, for small screws. So if you're doing just a small job somewhere in the back, where you only need a little tiny screw, there's no need to lug that in the backyard. Now this is the mama. She was the one most popular that we used in installing furniture. And then Big Daddy, of course, it's got the longest reach and requires a fair bit of oomph from the arm to get it in. But a very handy tool to have. So they all work on the same system. The more you push, the quicker the screw goes in. It's the same with this one. Right? So it's all the same. It's just a push action, and you can see the bit actually rotating. So I'll just give you a quick demo on how easy and how efficient it is to use one of these. So it has a setting on here that is forward, backward, so you can extract screws as well, or if you want to lock it into position in the middle, it will fix itself in place and you can rotate the screw in or out without having to use the ratchet system. So I've got a couple of screws here for which I've made a pilot hole with the hand drill. So I'll just put them in the hole here, and then with the ratchet system, in. So you can see how quick that was in comparison to using one of those. Now, you've all seen a complete set of screwdriver sets at one of the hardware stores. So you've got every device here that you could possibly think of. So it goes from small screws right to the big one. If I can get it out. The Big Daddy here will give you a nice little grip on that screw that I put in before with the brace. So again, hand tools never let you down. If you've got them, they're always ready to use. They don't need the batteries charged. They don't need to be plugged in. You don't need leads. You just grab your tool and then use it. This would be the most popular. It's a Phillips for an 8-gauge screw, which is the most common screw used in cabinet making. So these are all These are 8 gauge, that means there's a certain size of the head. And then when you get to the other ones, you need a hexagonal bit. And then you're going to need a shifter or a socket or another tool that will do that, like a spanner, ring spanner, open ender or something like that. So these are the tools we used to use back in the 70s before power tools came on site, because now we have battery powered drills that also drill and screw in. So we'll get into that later when we cover power tools and battery tools. But again, if you have these at home or in your toolbox, always available, never let you down, never a dead battery. And you can interchange the bits. Like I could change the Phillips bit out of that just by pulling the chuck down, replacing it with a slot bit, so it's ready to go for slot screws. So if you've got an old piece of furniture that you need to restore, you can put the new bit in for slot screws, because they probably have slot screws in that furniture because they're made in the 50s, 60s, etc., before the Phillips screw was invented. So you can pull those screws out so you can restore the components and then restore the furniture. So hand tools never let you down, and this is just a small variety of different screws that you can get. I find screws a lot easier to use because I have full control of screws, whereas nails, nail guns, pin guns, all those things that are pneumatically powered, they have a tendency to cause the nail to ricochet out of the actual job and cause damage. So with screws, I know exactly where it goes. I put my pilot hole in. If I need to, I use a clearance hole, and then I gently screw it in, either with hand tools or with power tools, and I know that it will hold everything together under pressure, and there's no chances of it breaking out or ricocheting out of the gun. So very simple, and that's the procedure of screwing. So if you've got the tools, you can do the job.